So in regards to the Surface Hub, Microsoft really wanted to create a all-in-one collaboration device, a device that's easy to use. If you think of today's day and age, the next generation of workforce are what we call millennials. And millennials essentially have grown up with technology all around them, with Wi-Fi and internet and Microsoft Office and the likes. And when we are hiring this new generation of workforce, we need to ensure that we have devices that are capable for them to be able to use, and where you can actually just start using them straight away without the need of having to train them on a device. And Microsoft created the Microsoft Surface Hub to do exactly that. When you take yourself back into a meeting room and you think of what we actually do inside meeting rooms, there's three things that people do the most in a meeting room. One is talk to people, be it inside a room or remotely where we dial people in. Number two, we generally would use a whiteboard and post-it notes and just write out our ideas or brainstorm. And number three is taking stuff from a laptop or a PC and putting it onto a big screen. We wanted to make it as easy as that, and Microsoft did that with the Microsoft Surface Hub, with exactly 3 buttons just across here. So we have Skype to make and receive your calls, whiteboard to actually just start off using the whiteboard, and connect to project anything from your PC or your laptop directly onto the screen. And it's as easy as me just going ahead and picking up a pen for the Surface Hub to know exactly what I want to do, and it will automatically start off the whiteboard for me as well. Now when you do start using the whiteboard, as long as you know how to use pen and paper or just write on a whiteboard, you can absolutely use this device across here. It is the world's best inking and touching experience. We use technology from Perceptive Pixels for the screen across here. We have near zero parallax, which basically means while you're using the pen, it feels like the ink is actually flowing directly from the stylus itself. It's also pressure sensitive, which means I can actually go light or I can go heavy, and Surface Hub knows exactly what I'm trying to do. And again, remember I said there's nothing to learn, because if I wanted to erase anything from here, I'd simply turn the stylus around and go ahead and just erase like so. Across the bottom down here, you'll notice we have a whole range of different colours and different nibs made available. So I have things like highlighters if I wanted to highlight any work that I've done, different colours. On the Surface Hub we have 2 pens, so we've got a pen on the right hand side and one on the left. You can actually use up to 3 pens all at the same time with individual colours on the Surface Hub. Now some of our customers really love the whiteboard and wanted us to add some additional features, and one of the things that we did add was a ruler. You'd be surprised at how many people actually love creating straight lines with a ruler on something like the Hub. It's as easy as me just selecting a colour and being able to move around. You'll see I've got my angles across here as well, so I can create the best work if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and just tap that. If we also have an infinite canvas across here as well, so one hand generally is used to pan and zoom around, and the other hand you can actually use to write. You'll notice I'm resting my wrist on here as well. Surface Hub's intelligent enough to know that I'm writing like actually by having my wrist on the screen itself. Down here on the bottom we also have a lasso. So using the lasso I can actually create a circle around any work that I want, make it large, make it small, or simply move it around. If you think of a traditional whiteboard, you'd usually have to erase it and start all over again and do it on another area. Whereas Surface Hub is designed to cut down that time it takes you to actually do work. Now if I screw off just here onto the left hand side, or the right hand side should I say, we have this little settings button. This feature is probably one of my favourite features from the whiteboard app that we have. We have a feature across here called Ink to Shape. If I click Ink to Shape and I go ahead and just select a colour, if I now draw a shape, Surface Hub knows exactly what I'm doing and it will actually create those shapes for me. So a square across there. Goes one step further as well. If I tap one of the shapes, I'll also get angles popping up. So if you think of education, or if you think of construction, or those type of customers, Surface Hub becomes a really useful device where I don't need to bring in any third-party equipment or rulers or protractors or anything like that. I can simply tap on a shape and it will bring up all the angles for me directly from the screen itself. So if I go ahead and just hit settings one more time, there's an option here called Ink to Table. I'm going to go ahead and just select that. And this one becomes really useful, especially if you're starting to collaborate with people. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw what looks like a square. Surface Hub knows exactly that, and I can actually create tables simply by me just drawing additional lines, and it knows what I'm trying to do. So again, now Surface Hub becomes more of a better whiteboard than I could ever imagine to have in my boardroom. So the digital whiteboard isn't just your standard whiteboard. It's actually what we call a digital interactive whiteboard, which means it does a whole lot more than simply just writing across the screen. If I go ahead and I just tap down here on the bottom, the Windows button, hopefully you'll recognize what this is on the screen. This takes me back to when I was talking about millennials that are joining our workforce. They have grown up with this type of technology, and hopefully they will recognize the likes of PowerPoint, Word and Excel, and even things like the Microsoft Edge browser we have across here. Now if I go ahead and I tap the Edge browser, you'll notice what the Surface Hub does is it actually splits the screen, brings up the Edge browser, but also keeps my whiteboard working across there. I have the flexibility to be able to move the screens and choose which screen takes priority. But one of the added benefits around the Surface Hub is this little button across the top here. Right at the top we have this little snip tool. If I go ahead and I tap the snip tool, what it essentially does is it will grab a screenshot of whatever's on the screen and it will bring it into my workbook. And then all I simply do is go ahead and just highlight an area and let go of it, and you'll see that object that I've chosen from the web page is now part of my workbook. I then have the ability to tap it, resize it, move it around, but more importantly, I'm able to select any color that I want and actually draw on top of the object that I've just placed inside my workbook. Now, not only can I use the pen, I also have the option to be able to tap down here on the bottom where we've got this little touch button. If I tap that, I can now use my fingers. In fact, I can use 100 fingers all at the same time on Surface Hub. So if you're collaborating with more than one person, let's say you have 5 or 6 people around you, all 5 or 6 of you can actually go ahead and use the same worksheet and use your fingers to actually just draw and doodle and do whatever it is that you want on the device itself. The minute I grab the pen and I move back onto this, it will automatically switch it back into pen mode as well. I'm not limited to web browsing. I can actually go ahead and select any app that I want, and it doesn't matter what app it is, we will always have that snip tool across the top and it will always bring it back into my work. Moving back across here, there's a few options that we can now have once you've finished using your workbook. Down here on the bottom right hand corner we have a share button. If I go ahead and I hit share, it'll give you a few options. Now right now this Surface Hub will show email, feedback hub and OneDrive. When you start adding third-party apps, this list will actually become bigger. So for example, if I added, let's say, Dropbox, and actually get a Dropbox link here where I'll be able to share this whiteboard directly inside of my Dropbox. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and just hit email across the top. When I hit email, it will then give me the option to add anyone that I want across the top there. It'll also give me the option to be able to write a message, but more importantly, it will give me the whiteboard. So you'll see this whiteboard here gives me 2 files. One of the files is a OneNote file, which means I can essentially just grab this workbook and put it back into my existing workbook back on my PC or my laptop. But the other option it will give you is a PNG file, so it gives you a picture format. So essentially I can view this workbook on any device, regardless of whether it's a Microsoft device or a competitor device. It does not matter. A PNG file essentially can be opened on anything. And as soon as I've wrote my message, I'd simply just go ahead and hit send, and away it goes. And that's how you'd use the whiteboard. Using Skype on the Surface Hub is really easy. We have 3 buttons here on our front screen, and the first one says Skype. Simply go ahead and tap on Skype. Now you'll see across here on my right hand side that we've got the Skype menu system. I'm going to go ahead and just switch it onto the other side, which is really easy to do. Simply tap the button across the top, and now I've got it to my left. Now you'll see Skype, the Skype app running across here on Surface Hub looks and feels exactly the same as it does on PC, tablet, phone or any device that would use Skype on. So using Skype is an absolute doddle. Now across the top here we have any scheduled meetings. If I have anything booked up, it would simply show across the top there. But I also have the option to search for someone. So I'm going to go ahead, tap on search for someone, and simply using the keyboard here, go ahead and type my details in, and you'll see it's found me, and it also shows my status as well. Tap on that once, I'm now inside the invitation list. I could easily go in and add more and more people onto this session if I wanted to, but as soon as you're ready to make that call, you simply go ahead and type on invite. So you can see across here, Skype is now connected and I can see my colleague on the other side. We have two 1080p cameras running side by side, which will pick out the best image or the best view for myself. So you can see it switching depending on who's speaking. Now you'll see I have my whiteboard running across here, and if I was collaborating and if I was taking notes, you'll notice across the top I have a present screen button. As soon as I tap that, anything inside of the yellow box will then be presented onto the other side. So I can truly collaborate using the Surface Hub. Now moving back towards the Skype app, just across here on the bottom, you'll notice that we have a range of buttons. These are the same buttons that are used on the likes of PCs and phones and tablets. I have a call button, a people button, a messages button and a content button. So if we imagine that maybe I had 50 or 60 people on this call and you don't want everyone speaking at the same time, you can absolutely go ahead and use the IM feature across here and type your messages using the Skype app. And you can see there's a reply happening there as well. Anything I do on the Surface Hub, from me using the whiteboard or me opening up the internet browser or maybe even one of the Office 365 apps such as PowerPoint, everything inside of that yellow window will then be presented onto the other side. In fact, we can have it running the other way around as well if we wanted to. So maybe if Sarah wanted to reply back to me, or maybe she wanted to present, she could simply present from her side and it would come up here on the Surface Hub as well. So Microsoft Surface Hub runs on Windows 10. It has the Windows 10 infrastructure behind it. In fact, it actually runs on what we call Windows 10 Team Edition, which is a very locked down version of Windows 10 for the Surface, which means users can't actually get in and mess it up. You have to be an admin user with admin credentials in order for you to even download anything from the store or change any settings on the device. So it's a very secure device. Talking about that, if I go ahead and I tap on the Windows button, like I said earlier on, you'll recognize exactly what's here on the screen. Straight out the box, Microsoft provides you with a whole bunch of different apps specifically designed for Surface Hub. So to start off with, we have the likes of Office 365, from PowerPoint all the way down to Excel. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just tap on one of them. If I open up PowerPoint across here, you'll recognize it looks and feels exactly the same as it does on a PC or a desktop device. And it works exactly the same way as well. Now there's a number of different ways for me to be able to bring my content in onto PowerPoint. The first one is I can actually tap the sign in button across the top right hand corner. You'll see Surface Hub actually gives me a couple of options in order for me to be able to retrieve my work I've done on Office 365. I get the option of signing into my Microsoft account, but if I'm using this in a workplace scenario or maybe at a school, I can actually sign in by using a workplace or a school account. If you're worried about security, Surface Hub's got you covered. You can actually have two-factor authentication set up on the device as well, and Microsoft will provide you with a keyboard. So if you want to enter your passwords in, you don't have to use the online keyboard across here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the browse button in the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see Surface Hub now gives me three different options. I can use the File Explorer and find content that maybe I've saved earlier on the device itself. I also have the option to sign into my OneDrive, so I can retrieve my files directly from the cloud, or go old school and tap on removable storage. What I've done is I've actually just plugged in a USB stick just here on the right hand side, and I'd simply just plugged it in. I'd go ahead, tap on what I want, open any presentation, and just tap the open presentation button. And as soon as I do that, Surface Hub will open up presentations ready for me to go out and show off to my scene. So along with the likes of the Microsoft apps such as PowerPoint, Word and Excel, we also give you the option to be able to download third-party apps from Windows Store, or if you want, host those apps internally and have your own line of business apps on the device itself. If you are using Windows 10 apps, or what we call universal Windows 10 apps, essentially you can have them on Surface Hub. You'll see from mine I've even got Candy Crush across here as well. So one of the apps that I really want to show off to you is the Siemens JT2Go app. This really shows off the true power of a Surface Hub, and it gives you a great example of how Surface Hub can be used. If I go ahead and I just select this particular model here, on an 84-inch device such as this, it looks absolutely stunning because this is a 4K device. Now let's imagine I'm talking to my colleagues and we need to collaborate on this new model. Using an app such as this, I can actually go ahead and manipulate and show exactly what this model looks like. In fact, using line of business apps such as this app, I can go one step further and tap on the app itself and bring exploded or imploded views. I could draw on the screen if I wanted to, or more importantly, if I take you back to when I was talking about the whiteboard, I still have the snip tool across the top. If I tap on the snip tool, it will grab that image. I can then highlight the areas that I want and then bring it into my workbook across here. And more importantly, draw on top of it. So the third button that we have across here on the menu is the connect button, which is essentially how you would connect anything from here onto the big screen. So if I go ahead and I tap on the connect button, you'll see it starts off the connect app across here. Now there's a number of different ways of how we can actually connect your computer or your laptop onto the Surface Hub. One, we have Miracast enabled, which means any Windows 10 laptop, any Intel-based Windows 10 laptop, you'll be able to essentially Miracast or wirelessly project your work from here directly onto the big screen. I'll show you that in a second. We also have hardware elements in place. So for example, if you want something like a barcode click share, you can absolutely connect that to Surface Hub and use a barcode click share and project directly onto the big screen. Or option number 3 is go old school. So we have connections for HDMI, VGA, DisplayPort, and you can literally just plug them in directly into your device and it'll be shown inside of this screen as well. So now let me show you how you would use Miracast and how I would connect wirelessly my Surface Pro onto the big screen. Once you have the Connect app running on Surface Hub, it's as easy as me just tapping one button across here. You'll see it shows my desktop is about to project. For those of you that are security conscious, you can set pin numbers on here as well. And hey presto, there you go, one touch and I've managed to get my screen directly on to the bigger screen. Now that I've connected my Surface Pro device onto the Surface Hub using Miracast, you'll see across here I actually get the option to allow mouse, keyboard, touch and pen input from this device. So what that means is from my laptop, if I decide to tick that button there, I can now control my laptop using Surface Hub. So to give you an example, if I was to go ahead and just tap here on the Windows button, what it will then do is actually control the experience directly from Surface Hub. And I can move around these web pages using Surface Hub and have my laptop sitting at the end of the room. Once you have finished your meeting and you've finished using Surface Hub, it's really easy to end your sessions. Just down here on the bottom we've got the end session button. If I go ahead and I tap that, Surface Hub will now give you 10 seconds to save all your work, i.e. that means my whiteboard I can email or send it to my OneDrive. If I don't have anything to save and I let the countdown go all the way down to 0, essentially now what the Surface Hub is doing is it's wiping the whole device down. Effectively, it uninstalls and reinstalls every single app. It signs me out the cameras, it signs me out of my Office 365, and in a minute, here we are, it's up and running already, it's ready for the next session. So essentially, anyone else can walk into the room and start using Surface Hub. There is no way of me being able to retrieve my information from my last session. So for those of you that are security conscious, Surface Hub is a great device to ensure that you're not going to be leaking any information from any previous sessions.